Alright, finna go to get started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode 222, we're going to be discussing the champion's mentality. Before I go ahead and get it started, make sure to follow me on Twitch, TikTok, Rumble, and on Spotify at Life of a Champ podcast on every single platform. As well as if you do not know who I am, my name is Champ, and I help men build their foundation of masculinity. So, for the topic of today, the champion's mentality. Now, I'll give you a little bit of background of how I kind of been more attuned to this idea, and it's something that I feel the champion's mentality is something that you could say is. I'm not saying just because look at his name's Champ, and then yeah, I'm not. It's none of that. It's something that um I have really dissected, and I have really researched thoroughly champions, and I'll say champions like that are in the thumbnail, whether it's Kobe, Jordan, all these guys, any person that is achieving success in the upper echelons of whatever they're pursuing, right? Whether it's comedy, whether it's music, whether it's athletics, which are those like most of the stuff that I care, whether it's interests or whatever, right? I've always had a fascination with these, as I'm sure a lot of people do, and I've always wanted to know what makes them tick, right? What works, what doesn't work, what is one suggesting and what is one not suggesting, if that makes any sense. And then from there, as you would do with any observation, you take all the similarities of all these things and now you apply it to your life, right? That's the way that I've looked at it, and that's the way that I will continue to look at it. And if you don't really see it like that, I think that's something that you should really try to be conscious of, right? Is when you're observing all of these people, there are going to be similar traits. There's going to be similar qualities. There's going to be similarities in many different aspects, and it's within your best interest to be observant and for you to go ahead and adopt those same type of characteristics, as they can definitely and they will benefit you for sure. But I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what spawned this idea, because this is a little bit of a different alteration to what I would typically think of the champion's mentality. So I got it, and I heard it from Sebum. If you don't know who Sebum is, he's basically the six-time Mr. Olympia. If you don't know what that is, it's like bodybuilding, right? And he went on a podcast with one of my favorite podcasters, Chris Williamson. Shout out to Chris Williamson. Not that he needs a shout out, but shout out to that boy because he has a really good podcast as well. But Sebum was talking about the concept of the champion's mentality, and the thing that he said that was really profound was the rules for being the rules for being a champion is that there is no rules, right? So try to internalize that for a second, right? The rules for being a champion is that there are no rules. It's just whatever it takes for you to win. So when I first thought of that, I was like, wow, that's really profound, because I've always tried to, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I've always tried to want to emulate a lot of what I've seen other people who are successful, um, who are like I said at the top of their field. I always wanted to try to emulate and try to adopt all of those qualities, but at the same time, when he said that to me, I was like, okay, so there's certain things that I'm going to have, or certain things I'm going to do, and certain things that I'm not going to do that are going to be defiant of some of these things that I see in other successful people, right? So let's just say, for example, I'll give you plenty of examples in this podcast, but just one for example, and I'll speak for myself, right? If there's one way that I wanted to, the one way that I want to achieve success, because I do believe that this is part in achieving life success, is to have a family, right? Is to essentially have a girlfriend at an early stage in life, so I can build a life with that woman, right? And I can build a family and all that, right? And a lot of people wouldn't even think that's necessarily conventional, right? There's some people that, when they're pursuing the top of their game, they're gonna say, you know what? There's no way I could have done it with one woman, right? They would much rather sleep around or live a commitmentless life, right? Because it's easier, it's less to worry about, there's less consequence, there's less sacrifice, there's less a lot of those things. So that is one way that I observe that there's certain narratives that are around success that can be true, but they don't have to be true, if that makes any sense. So when it comes to observing the people that you want to be like that are great, there's going to be certain things that you should do that are exactly what they're doing. But more importantly, you need to be looking out specifically for what it takes for you to win. And that's most important, right? The champion mentality, there are no rules for being a champion. It's just whatever it takes for you to win, right? So, for whatever it takes for you to win specifically, that is what you should be on the outlook for, right? However, your journey is going to be defined, that's going to be completely up to you, right? Everybody's going to have their own challenges, right? Everybody's path's obviously different, right? Everybody's going to have a different mindset or a different approach. Some people have an easier path, some people have a harder path. Some people do it in years and it takes, let's just say, 8 to 10 to 12 years. Maybe you're in their 40s, 50s in order to maintain or in order to achieve some type of success. And some people, they get it done when they're 18. Or I'm not going to say get it done, but they achieve success at 18. Or let's just say they achieve success in their 20s, right? So certain people do it at certain times, right? And that is their own version of doing whatever it takes, right? Whatever it took, right? And that is what I want to mention. So everybody's path's different. So there's no it's when you're comparing your approach, which I do believe is this champion mentality, right? The approach that I'm trying to describe, you must understand that your path is different. What it's going to take for you to succeed is different. The timing it's going to take is going to be different than any person that you've ever seen. And obviously it can be similar to somebody that you've seen before, right? But at the same time, I want it to be very very clear that it also can be very very much different, and that is okay because that's what it takes for you to win, right? You shouldn't necessarily be so worried about what it takes for other people to win as much as you should be worried and focused about what it's going to take specifically for you to win in this life. So yes, there isn't just one way of winning, or there isn't just one way of being a champion, right? So I'll give you another example, right? There's going to be, let's just say, certain athletes. I'm not going to get into any specifics, but let's just say certain athletes, right? Some have a different approach. Like for example, let's just say, I'll give you an example. Let's just say like a Kobe Bryant, right? A Kobe Bryant, super super dedicated. He needs to wake up at 6. He need to wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning every single day, or obviously it's probably hyperbole, but he got up early and made sure he worked, and he was there hours and hours, and he had already got a workout in before anyone else was even up, right? That's a different approach. That is what he felt that he needed in order to win. That was his champion mentality. Obviously, they call it the mama mentality, right? But at the same time, there's other people who didn't need to do that, who achieved the same level of success that he did, right? I'm not saying that they didn't put in as much work, but they just put in different things, or maybe they had less obstacles, or maybe they were able to do it in maybe they were able to do it in a shorter amount of time, or maybe they were able to do it in a longer amount of time, right? But they still end up with the same type of career. You see what I'm saying? So it is going to be what works for you. So the question I have for you is this: what works for you? What is the champion mentality for you? What does it take for you to win? Those are all very, very important. And I think you need to really ask that question. I'm going to answer some of these comments, but just take the time to really think about that because I think it's very, very important. And it's not going to be the same as everyone that you see. Question: what are some things that champions have? That's a good question. And I'll answer that right now. How do you take on and adapt to the champion's mentality to being and staying consistent to become successful in what you want to achieve? Don't worry about others for now. We have to take care of ourselves to win at first. One win, the whole team has to win. Yes, exactly. Yes, not hyperbole. Kobe was awake at 3 a.m. Exactly. Or I'm not saying I don't doubt that he was awake at that time. I'm saying he probably didn't do that every single day of his life. You see what I'm saying? All right. But to answer your question, KJ, which I was gonna get into that a little bit later, but I'll go ahead and mention it. Right. That's a good question, right? What are some things that champions have in common, right? What are what are certain things that champions have in common? And I think what it comes down to it is this: they have the ability to understand that it takes time, right? So they're dedicated. They're dedicated to understanding it's going to take as long as it needs to take, right? So that's a certain level of dedication, right? They understand thoroughly that they need to be consistent in order to get there. That without consistency, it doesn't matter how much time it's going to take. If you lack the consistency, you're never going to get to where you want to go. You're never going to become a champion in that specific regard, right? And on top of that all, it's going to take a lot of sacrifices. It might even take more than what most are willing to pay. So I think that is also very, very important. And those are all the things that I see that are common between the people who are participants of excellence. And that is, I can't, like I said, I can't really understate that enough. Obviously, there's gonna be things like learning from their mistakes, being ultra disciplined. Those are all things that kind of go hand in hand with that as well. But that don't take necessarily a genius for you to observe, right? Maybe they're dedicated to their craft. Maybe they clarified specifically what their craft was. Maybe they had a deeper reason for what they're doing, right? They didn't have, oh, I just want to be famous, or I just want to. No, they had a deeper sense of draw towards what they wanted to go ahead and pursue and the interest that they wanted to become a part of, right? So those are all things that I would say are part of them, that part of what creates a champion in itself. But like I said, it is very, very interesting to observe the differences that certain people have, right? Their approaches are obviously different, right? You can have, and the example that they use in the podcast that I was referring to was there's three different champions. He was talking about like the three top tennis champions, right? One was like maybe a little bit more goofy, right? He was like he wasn't taking himself too serious, and then there was another guy who was, let's just say, ultra serious, wasn't joking around, was locked in. He wasn't trying to talk to anybody before the match, and then the other guy was just kind of just chilling, and he wasn't like ultra serious, but he also wasn't goofy. He was kind of just a chill guy, right? Just kind of just kind of taking it in as it comes, right? As opposed to any of those other guys. But at the same time, all three of them were all very, very successful, right? But they all did it their own way. But they're all champions in their own regard. So it's going to be different. Right? I like to point out the differences. And here's the thing: there's going to be certain things that are going to be no brainers for you to go ahead and um, that are going to contribute to your success, right? And some of those no brainers are going to be they're going to be reasons for people to do or for not to do for their own version of success. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's just say certain people would say, "Oh, don't drink alcohol when you're trying to climb the ladder of success and become a champion and be excellent. Don't drink any alcohol," right? That might be a standard that some apply, right? And then you look, and then there's also other people who have had a great success and who drink alcohol on occasion, or have great success and who drink alcohol often, right? So I guess it just matters. It matters to you and what you want to define as your own success, right? And the things that you're willing to sacrifice and the things that you're not willing to sacrifice, right? Like I had mentioned. But yeah, so pay attention and be keen to all of these things. And like I said, at the end of the day, I still want you to be very, 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 very conscious when it comes to observing the successful people, the champions, because obviously there are commonalities within all of them that are worth emulating for sure. So, with that being said, I'm going to move on. If you have any questions, let me see. Katie said, I haven't found a good routine for being consistent because I want to be successful in YouTube, but I haven't found a good wake up time not only for YouTube creation, editing, gym, plus school. That's gonna be you just need a structure. You just need to create some type of structure and edit and revise and get feedback. That's it. That's the only way to do it. Instead of just living like I'm not saying you're living like I'm not even saying you're living aimless, but just the best way to do that is to have some type of foundation and trying to figure out is gonna what works, what doesn't work, and then move on from there. So yeah, another thing I want to mention as well is when people talk about success, when people talk about them being a champion and what it took for them, right? They kind of speak of they speak at it and speak yeah, they speak from it from their own perspective, right? From their own definition of success or from winning, right? And that doesn't necessarily have to be what you define to be winning or what you define success to look like or um, what you want your discipline on yourself to look like as well, right? So, for example, right, there are certain people who say, in order to be the person that I want to be, I need to work hard, long hours. I need to be dedicating 12 to 16 hours a day on my work, or I'm not doing enough, right? You got people like that, right? That are just absolutely convinced of this workaholic mindset that the only way that they're going to be anything, and they don't want to leave anything on the plate. They want to be completely dedicated to their everything, and yeah, they want to just work and just work and then just work and then just work, right? So there's certain people that like that, and then there's other people who also attain the same level of success as that person but work 4 hours or less, right? So there's going to be certain ways, depending on how you set it up, your success can look different, right? Certain people value working, certain people value freedom, right? The people that value freedom are going to be the ones maybe that are striving to create a work schedule where they work 4 or less hours a day, right? But it's just dependent on what you value, right? What you value, and more importantly, what your own defined success and what your own defined win is going to look like for you, right? So and I'll give you some more examples, right? Some people feel like they need vices. Some people feel like vices are the last things that they need to become successful, right? But yet you're going to see plenty of successful people who are viceless, right? Who don't indulge in any alcohol, any women, any drugs. And there's going to be certain successful people who indulge in all three. They do it all at the same time. Or maybe they indulge only in one. Or maybe they indulge in gambling or whatever, right? But essentially the point is you can if you want to do it. I'm not saying it's going to be your formula to success, but I'm saying it doesn't necessarily have to be your formula to failure either, right? But I'm not like I said, I wouldn't recommend I'm not going to recommend anything or whether it's to do all those things or to not do all those things. I would never recommend whatever is going to work for you, whatever you feel and whatever your subconscious mind is telling you would work and would not work. I think that's something that you should trust for sure. Right? And I gave you that example earlier, right, with being single. There's certain people that believe that there's no way in hell that they could achieve success or the level of success that they want without being single, right? And then there's also people who there's no way that they believe that they could have even been successful without a family or without a structure, without a woman next to their side, right? So, and I'll give you an example, right? So, like, let's just say like a Jordan or like a LeBron, right? LeBron, he had a woman forever, right? And she's been there the whole time. Whether he cheats or does whatever, that's not what we see, but that's a whole nother thing, right? But at the end of the day, he has one woman. He stayed loyal to that one woman, and he's created a family and things like that. And he was still able to maintain and pursue the the highest of excellence of his profession, right? And then you have people like Jordan, who I think it wasn't until later into his career when he had children and he found a woman, and he's had probably I think multiple women now, but you see what I'm saying, right? So a lot of people they have that differing factor that I'm not going to say defines their success, but it indeed does define their own personal champion mentality. That this is this is what it will take, right? That's what they claim is this is what it would take, right? So yes, You are just as everybody else is in the defining moments of what the champion mentality is going to look like for yourself, right? Your definition of success, whatever that looks like for the route to greatness for you, right? You're going to have certain challenges, whether you face them involuntarily or voluntarily, that are going to create this definition of the champion mentality for you. Obviously, all these things are going to take time, right? Let's just say you're going to try to implement some of these things, right? You're going to test some of these things out. Let's just say you've heard somebody that you really, really respect and you want to try out and try to emulate, like I'd mentioned, right? You want to emulate exactly some of the character traits or some of the habits that they have. Some of them will work out, some of them will not work out, right? And that's okay because defining you're in the journey of defining the champion mentality for yourself, right? It's going to take a lot of time. It's obviously going to take a lot of consistency. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice, like I've mentioned, and that's exactly what it's going to take, man. It's going to take what people are not willing to put in. It's what it is at the end of the day. If you want to achieve any level of excellence, if you want to achieve any level of bettering yourself at all, it's going to take some time. But at the same time, time's going to go by regardless. How would you like to live the future? That's the question I have for you. All right, let me read some comments real quick. I want to be able to get a woman to build with as well. I don't want to focus on women, but I do want one, and I'm going to get one, no doubt. See, here's the thing, and then you run into stuff like that. It's semi contradicting that, and that's kind of the things that I don't really 100% understand. Right? Is there's certain people, and I'll use KJ's comment as an example. Right? There's certain people that kind of have these conflicting. They're like, oh, I want it, but not right now. Well, here's the thing: if you can't handle it right now, then when are you ever going to be able to handle it? That's my thing, right? There's men that be like, "Oh yeah, I'll have when I'm done when in a few years when I'll settle down with the woman in a few years from now. I'm too busy doing whatever I'm doing." Who's to say you're going to even be able to be ready for that when it comes? If you're not actively trying to be in the process of handling that situation, who's to say that you'd be ready? Because you spent all this time not being ready. You see what I'm saying? So it's just little things like that. So you fall into this contradictory, and what it comes down to at the end of the day is this, right? Life's gonna give you challenges, right? Maybe having a woman would be a challenge for you, right? Maybe that's what it is, right? Life's gonna give you challenges, and sometimes they're gonna come up a little bit unexpectedly, right? Right? Maybe let's just say you find the right woman at an early age, right? Let's just say you weren't looking for one and you didn't know that you needed one or you thought you didn't need one and you're just trying to focus on yourself and your success and all that. And then you find a woman and she presents herself to you and now it is somewhat of a challenge because quite frankly, you weren't ready for this. But at the same time, at least it's a challenge, right? There's going to be challenges and and this is semi related, so I do want to talk about it for sure, right? There's going to be challenges in your life that come up, like I said, voluntarily or involuntarily, right? And those are going to be a demonstration to you and to others of how you handle situations. So, any and every obstacle that is thrown your way, any and every perceived inconvenience that is thrown your way, any and every issue or challenge that you will encounter in this life, that is a demonstration for you and for others to see if you can handle the situation properly or not, right? Obviously, the more capable you are at handling these situations, the more respect that people have for you and where you come from, right? That's a that all is going to contribute as well to the champion's mentality, right? Whatever it takes, right? And whatever it takes is going to be the challenges that I'm mentioning, right? Because at the end of the day, as we all know this, right? When you meet a man, at the end of the day, you are a reflection of your challenges that you faced or that you ran away from. And that's one of the things when I first had thought of that, I was like, that is indeed the truth, right? You look at a bunch of men who are unwilling to face some of the most basic things or get over their childish ways, and they're nothing but a reflection of the challenges that they refused to take on, right? They're stuck in the past. They're stuck being children, grown children. They're stuck in their ways of immaturity. They were not able to self govern themselves properly, so therefore, they're nothing more than a reflection of the challenges that they ran away from. So, that is part of the champion mentality. That's what it is at the end of the day. So, when you take that, when these challenges come up, whether you're ready for them or not, whether they're voluntarily challenges or involuntarily challenges, at the end of the day, I believe that challenges choose you. You don't always get to choose them, right? There's going to be certain things that come up that are challenging, but at the end of the day, they are made for you and for your life. Because at the end of the day, the champion mentality is whatever it takes to win, right? And in order to get over this challenge, right, this obstacle, this insecurity, this issue that you have, this weakness that you have, it's going to take whatever it takes to win, right? In order to get in a favorable outcome, right? In a if yeah, basically in favorable terms for you, right? It's going to take whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes, whether it's let's just say you're not confident, right? The champion's mentality is going to be whatever it takes to be confident, right? So those are the challenges. Everybody's gonna have unique challenges, right? Some people, they grow up and they are just confident, right? Some people grow up and they're not confident. Some people grow up and they're overweight. Some people grow up and they're in good shape, right? At the end of the day, we all have our challenges, and obviously I just named a very, very, very few amount of challenges, right? We all have our challenges, but at the end of the day, you must remember that the champion's mentality, the rules for being a champion is that there are no rules. It's just whatever it takes for you to win, for you to overcome the weaknesses, overcome the challenges, and be able to customize whatever it's going to take for you to win. Doing whatever it takes, getting better in any and every way, right? Trying new things, implementing new things, removing old things. But at the end of the day, it's going to be whatever it takes, no matter how long it takes. For some people, like I mentioned, right, it's going to be a 12 to 16 hour workday. For others, it's going to be working 4 hours or less, but still being and maintaining success, right? So understand that you are in control of this. Understand that some of this advice is going to be nuanced as well, right? Sometimes some of these things are going to work for certain seasons of life. You must figure out what needs to work for this season of life, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, right? So that's all for you to go ahead and try, which, like I said, that's what I'm really, really am trying to embrace and trying to promote is it's just a matter of just trying all of these things, right? Just trying to figure out whatever it takes to win. That's it. That's the champion's mentality, man. I'm gonna read a few more comments and then I'll go ahead and end it off. All right. All right, for sure. Guys, if you can overcome these challenges, then it's all about embracing the journey and not waiting aimlessly for the destination. Yes, sir. KJ said, don't click on his video. Don't click on his video, man. Click on another one of my podcasts, man. Come on now. You already know what time it is. But that's pretty much all I have to say for today's episode. This was episode 222 of the Life of a Champ podcast, talking about the champion's mentality. If you enjoyed it, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. And make sure you go ahead and follow me on Twitch, TikTok, Rumble, and on Spotify, as well on X, at Life of a Champ podcast. Other than that, I'll be doing a few live streams next week. If you like the tier list challenges or tier lists, I'll be doing a few of those because I think those are interesting. They'll be around dating and attraction, referring to my last series that I had previously done. Other than that, I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure you outwork at these motherfuckers because you know that I am. and you know that everyone else around me is, man. You know what time it is, man. Y'all have a good night. Stay tuned for the next podcast on Thursday. Next Thursday.